Hello, everyone. And I just want to lead off with yes, it is very much not Monday. So, first off, thank you for your patience. So sorry, we try to go live every Monday. And this Monday, I had the amazing opportunity to be in person, 3 dimensions. So exciting. I mean, I love being able to connect with you all through the screen and through all these platforms. And that is an incredible reality of the century and the year that we live in. And I'm deeply appreciative of all of that. And it is also just really nice to be in person with people. So, where was I? I was in Bend, Oregon, working with some phenomenal math, English language arts, social studies, and science middle school teachers in the Bend La Pine School District. We have been working together across the year on sort of diving into some different data topics, and they are building out all these super cool data integrated lessons that they're going to be using in the coming weeks and then sharing out. It's this awesome grant on how we can support all of our learners building out their data literacy, as it is a fundamental part of literacy in general for the 21st century. So just so much deep appreciation for Oregon Department of Ed for making that grant possible and for all of that work. So long way to say, no, it is Thursday. It is not Monday, but I'm still going live because I wanted to connect with you all and just, share some insights. So what I want to share is about thinking of what are our variables. And this is very timely because prior to going up and connecting with all of those fantastic teachers in the Ben Pine School District, I was doing the going through my inbox and finding things. And yes, this was from a long time ago. I don't know if the date's up here. I think this is from 2022. Let's see. When did the awesome folks at Data Classroom post this? I don't know. It's not even giving me a date. This was not recently. This is a tried and true, fantastic blog post on understanding data types in general, and then how you can use it in your classroom. And why am I sharing this? Because this was a component of something that came up a lot on Monday and Tuesday as we were doing those work session jam outs, developing lessons and thinking about what types of data do we have? How are our kids going to be asking questions from it? So we had one group that was the students are going to be designing surveys and thinking about how do we have kids design good surveys so that, and by good, I mean that will actually bring data back in that they can say something from for their question. Their whole project is this awesome integrated math, English language arts, social studies project of getting kids to think about their community and what are some potential improvements in their community and things. But how do we move beyond just a do you like it or do you not like it? Which is great. That's a sort of, there are two options, yes, no, maybe you could have an other or a maybe type of thing. Or oftentimes kids will want to write our survey questions where it's long, open-ended, or I should say, and adults like to write long, open-ended survey questions, which is wonderful because that gives people opportunities to really share their opinions. And when we're talking about our community, oh my goodness, yes, we want to share our opinions. We want to engage and really hear what people have to say. And unless you know how to do theme analysis and qualitative data analysis, it can be really tricky to figure out what do you do with that open-ended data. And we talked through the options of kind of making a word cloud, which is actually at the top of that blog post by Data Classroom, a word cloud. But then we were talking about, oh, but then it's really tricky because sometimes there'll be a lot of words that will all be sort of generally the same size, meaning they're showing up in general numbers, similar type numbers in your responses from the survey respondents. Okay, well, then what do you do with that? How do we help our middle schoolers make sense of that? And then secondly, another big piece or oftentimes you can get a word cloud of survey responses, and 4 of the 6 words are basically synonyms of one another. And then what do you do about that? And so we talked through the benefits of having kids think through that and the teachable moments and all the opportunity for nuance and getting into it. And it was great. And then we also talked about the fact that it's, mid-April and there are just only so many more weeks before the end of the school year. And so sort of the pros and the cons. And so we were thinking about like, okay, maybe we give some categories as options and they can survey respondents can select. We're like, great. Okay, so now we have we have categories. Okay. So what can we do with those categories? And then there was this great opportunity to connect with another one of the groups that was totally jamming out on census at school. I'll put the link to that here in the comments afterwards about the from this live stream. But Census at School is a phenomenal resource. Oh wait, I think I've got it pulled up. Let me show it to you. So this was, excuse me, originally out of New Zealand, I believe, and now there's multiple different countries. And it is a survey you can take. And this is also what I want to point out. You can have your students collect the data, and then you can compare it to other data from across the United States. Thank you, American Statistical Association, for making this possible. Look, we've got Australia, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and the United States. So, yes, very English focus English forward languages, but look at all these different states, all these different countries. And then within their different states or provinces or things like that, that you can compare, you can use this random sampler to get a certain amount of data out. And then again, we were thinking of like, okay, so what are the questions? How are students going to explore it? And we got into this great conversation of, is it a categorical variable or is it a numeric variable? Does it matter? And this totally relates to the surveys when your kids are developing surveys. It totally relates to this because our kids are answering questions about themselves with Census at School in the surveys. And it's fun to answer questions that are categories like, what's your favorite beverage? How do you get to school? These are really fun questions to ask and answer. And then we were sort of jamming on the like, okay, but we're going to have all these data, either for the community improvement project or for the Census at School All About Us project. And we were thinking of like, okay, but if our math concept, if our math anchor is our measures of center, mode, median, and mean, and then we're also maybe getting into variability. So with MAD, or maybe getting into standard deviation, definitely some range, like those different ways that we can get at variability in our data. Where does that leave us with our categorical data? We certainly cannot identify a mean of your favorite beverage. It just numerically does not mean anything. Like you physically cannot calculate it in an algorithm. And like, what does that actually tell you? We're like, okay, so mean is out. Median. We're like, okay, well, technically you could put together, you could line up all the responses for a favorite beverage and you could find the middle point, but it totally depends on how you organize the list of favorite beverage because there is in fact no inherent hierarchy or sequence of a categorical response. Okay, so that's median. We can't really do median. We've knocked out mean, we've knocked out median. Mode. Oh, we can definitely do mode with a categorical variable. Which one has the most? But we're like, okay, that's sort of limiting on what we could think about. So it's like, oh, okay, so we need some numbers. We need some numeric data. And then we jumped in. We're like, okay, so your typical commute time in minutes. Yep, that's definitely a numeric variable. Class period. And then we started going round and round. We're like, how many languages you speak? Ooh, we started going round and round. Are these numeric variables or are they categorical variables? How do we decide? How do we think about this? How do we help our students think about this? And so some of our ideas that we were thinking through is like, oh, okay, well, so you can't have third and a half period. Just doesn't exist. We have third period, we have fourth period, but we don't have third and a half, we have 3.5 period. Like, okay, so periods, class periods are, even though it's a number, we're going to assign it as a categorical variable. We're going to think about it as a category. Number of languages you speak. Okay, so in some ways that could be a category. Like you either are conversant, you can have a conversation in a language, or you cannot. And they're like, well, I happen to co-parent and partner with a human who is phenomenally good at languages. This is not me. So he would say, well, fluent in 2 languages. I can have conversations in about 3 or 4 more. And so maybe I'm like, it'd be like 2.5 or 3.5 languages that I would be conversant in. So then it gets a little tricky. And then we came down to what it often always does. So what is your question? What is it you're trying to explore? And that is what can sometimes be the decision of, are we going to set it up as a numeric variable where it's along a continuous numerical scale, or is it a categorical and we're going to treat it individually, where those that speak 2 languages are different than those that speak 3 languages, the same way a small is different than a medium size of a coffee cup, things like that. So when we're looking at our data, when we're thinking about our data, when we're trying to figure out how to make sense of the data and visualize it and take our measures of center and look for it, it all comes back to what are our questions and what we're trying to do with our data. So this was very long. Thanks for sticking with it. I will put resources to that blog post on data types from Data Classroom. I will put the link for the census at school down there in the classroom. We will go live again on Monday. I promise it will be back to Mondays. And if you're interested in exploring a little bit more about how we get our students thinking about variability, or how we get our students sort of deeper understanding this connection of our question to our data, I highly encourage you to join us this summer for our data literacy bootcamp series. It's coming up this summer. I'll put a link to that as well. If you're interested, we would love to have you there. With that, happy Thursday. Hope you all are doing well, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.